think schools have a responsibility to teach hair as what it is.
Yes.
Because hair doesn't have a race, right?
No.
And so what about when you start to include all formations of hair and all textures, but also give the education behind the cultural importance of it, right? So making sure that the students understand all of those formations, all of those different types of hair, and not listening when they say, that's not the kind of hair I'm going to work on. But I like to push back a little bit because you never know if your client has a child that will have that type of hair. And let's be clear, curly hair lives in a lot of different cultures. And that doesn't mean that you won't encounter that. So why would you want to minimize that?
To the back to school edition of Hairitage Talks. I'm your host, Tamika Swint, and founder and executive director of Styles for Kids. And today we have two amazing guests I can't wait to introduce to you. We have Alethea Young, who is a licensed cosmetologist and an empowering educator, curly coily specialist, and K-18 pro educator. And our second guest is Danielle Sanders, and she is from Youth Care. She's also a licensed clinical social worker. And we're going to be talking today about hair equity for persons of color in a white dominant culture, especially as it relates to children. And this is an important conversation that needs to be had. And so we're about to have it. But before we get started, I'm going to give our guests an opportunity to kind of introduce themselves and let you guys get to know them a little bit. So first up, we have Alethea, and I'm just so excited to have you here on the podcast, and your connection to Styles for Kids and your position at K-18 has just been invaluable to us. And so can you tell us a little bit about K-18 and what's going on over there?
Of course. First, I want to say thank you so much for having me. Super happy to be here. And as you mentioned, I'm with K-18. I'm Senior Manager of Capabilities and Training globally. But my love for curly, coily hair is what really helps me to propel, right? But K-18 is a brand and company that really focuses on hair care and health and being mindful of the fact that hair is all the same at the molecular level. So being able to really address those pain points that we see and address those things. And K-18 is thinking radically outside of the box to be able to, again, address those pain points, but to serve the pro community as far as you all at the salon and the consumer, to support that and to make us all, partners when it comes to healthy hair.
Yes, for sure. And we love the product, and we're actually seeing a big difference in salon with our clients and the performance of the product. So thank you so much for being here.
Yes.
And then we have Danielle from Youth Care, and I'm excited to hear more about you and what's going on in Youth Care and your role as a social worker there. So tell us a little bit about that.
Sure. Thank you for the opportunity to speak with you. I've been at Youth Care almost 5 years. I'm currently a clinical supervisor. So I supervise care coordinators. They work with our caregivers, with our foster parents, our adoptive parents, and guardians to provide resources for our youth. These are youth that are in care or have either been adopted or under guardianship. So they work with them to find primary care physicians, to find dentists, but also to find those resources in the community that they need, like Styles for Kids.
Yes, amazing. Well, thank you again for having this invaluable conversation. We're just going to get right into it. So ethnic hairstyles in Black culture are critical to a child's ability to express themselves and form a healthy sense of identity and connection to their race and Black culture. It's their hair story. And so today we're going to be exploring the historical significance of hair in Black culture, focusing on how European culture has helped to shape American beauty standards. Did you know that in Black culture, the way that you choose to wear your hair serves as a form of cultural identity and self-expression? Finally, we're going to discuss how American beauty standards and the media's representation of hair impacts children's self-esteem. And these two women and their experience is going to be invaluable to us as stylists and also as parents in this community who really need to hear this conversation. So first we're going to talk about hair, because we know you are both Black women with beautiful hairstyles, let me say. But can you share a personal experience or story that highlights the importance of hair care and hairstyling as a form of self-expression and identity for you both? And as you're sharing that, can you talk a little bit about who has inspired your hair care journey? And we know this is going to probably be from different perspectives, especially for you as a stylist and as a social worker. So I'm interested to hear. Tell us your story. What inspires you?
So I remember, especially as we get back to school, every Saturday night, Sunday morning, in my grandmother's kitchen, in my mother's dining room, either the hot comb was on the stove, the curlers were on the table, getting ready to go to school, because my mother and grandmother instilled in me always putting your best foot forward. And part of that was making sure that my hair was done to a way that I liked and they liked. And so it's very important to have that expression in yourself, very important to be able to have those hairstyles and making sure that our kids look as best as they want to, the way that they want to. So I think about even now, my grandmother is 98 years old, and she makes sure that her wig is just so before she leaves out the house. My mom makes sure that her hair is just so when she picks her scarf every day. So making sure that our kids have that same choice so that they can leave out and be confident in our world, where this world is not so nice to them.
Yes, huge in the Black community. Like, your stuff better be looking right when you leave the house. Right? What about you, Alethea? Tell us a little bit about yourself and your hair journey and what's inspired you.
The thing that sticks out to me most, I'm like you at school, my mom was a hairdresser. So she did hair for a long time. She made sure my hair was together every time I went to school. But I remember telling her, I want to wear my hair out. I want to wear my hair out in its natural form. But this was in the early 80s. And so the natural hair movement wasn't thriving, right? And I remember she let me do it. And I felt so good about doing that. But mind you, I went to a predominantly white school. So when I got there, I walked in and I was beautiful. And I remember the challenge of the other students looking at my hair, being surprised that it was out, and my teacher saying it's kind of a distraction when you wear your hair out like that. But that took me back to saying I want to make sure my hair is coiffed in place, not a hair out of place. So I saw both of those things, right? And as a young girl, seeing my hair done, seeing my hair in its natural state, and what came along with that. And that made me think about my clients when they brought their kids in as a stylist now, and what they're looking for and how they feel when they leave. I know that's important. And when it comes to what inspires me now as an adult and as a stylist behind the chair, is when I see women, men and women, and young children that wear their hair out in its form without forcing it to be in a shape that they think it needs to be in, even if it's in its natural state, right? So having to have defined curls, having to have clumped curls, not everybody does that. And I love that they are standing in their truth and letting their hair do what it wants to do. That inspires me every day.
Absolutely. It's a beautiful, beautiful story to share. Thank you so much. Well, we know we're going back to school, right? And so can you share in what ways do you see the current lack of awareness in schools and or training in culturally competent hair care? How is it affecting the mental health, well-being, and self-esteem of Black youth? Danielle, I'll let you go first.
Sure. So like as Alethea said, her hair was a distraction. How are we teaching our children that they belong in a space to earn their education, and they're being called a distraction because of what's on their head? The focus is just what's on their head instead of what's in their head, and that is a problem. The focus is on that they're rebelling, that's seen as a challenge, that is seen as something that they are doing to annoy or offend someone. In reality, they're just doing it to express themselves. We still have an issue where we have kids being suspended, expelled, not allowed to attend their graduation ceremonies because their hair is locked, because they've decided they wanted to have blue hair for the day, because their hair is too big, it's too wild, it's untamed. In reality, it's just their hair. So how do we teach our children that they matter when they're being told, it doesn't matter what you're learning, it doesn't matter what you know, it matters, I don't like your hair. There's something wrong with it. It distracts me, it's wild. And that's not okay.
It's not. 100%. I'm in 100% agreement with you. And Alethea, what do you think?
Just what I see when it comes to the lack of knowledge, the lack of inclusion. We were kind of talking about it earlier. In a school setting, when it comes to things like picture day, when it comes to things like maybe you're in a dance troupe or you're in cheer, and not being inclusive and thinking about everyone that's on the team. Because what it can do is force someone to have to really assimilate. If you don't have hair that swings and hangs long down your back, a high ponytail won't bounce the same way as the rest of the squad will. And so,
come on now.
so not thinking about that, right, and putting these limits on these young girls and young men, right,
Yes.
based on maybe they have locks or what have you, that's a challenge.
Yes.
And when it comes to things like being mindful of changing picture day, if they're having senior portraits, a lot of times people don't think about the ritual of having your hair done. It is a ritual, right? We go through a whole process. There's a community piece behind it. There's connection behind it, but it takes time. We're putting love into that hair, and it's not something we can just get up, shake and go. This is something that takes time. So give us that time to practice those rituals and give me space to do it in.
Yes, 100. Now I'm gonna ask you this question because this is something that I'm really passionate about. Beauty school. How important is it for us in the cosmetology and beauty space to put emphasis on this cultural piece of understanding that I need to be able to do all kinds of hair? Yeah. And what do you feel about that? Like, how can we create a system that includes everybody?
Right. Given my background, teaching in beauty school for a long time, I'm looking at it in a different space. I think schools have a responsibility to teach hair as what it is.
Yes.
Because hair doesn't have a race, right?
No.
And so what about when you start to include all formations of hair and all textures, but also give the education behind the cultural importance of it, right? So making sure that the students understand all of those formations, all of those different types of hair, and not listening when they say, that's not the kind of hair I'm going to work on. But I like to push back a little bit because you never know if your client has a child that will have that type of hair. And let's be clear, curly hair lives in a lot of different cultures. And that doesn't mean that you won't encounter that. So why would you want to minimize that? But it is the school's responsibility, in my opinion, to teach that part. We learn about the history of curls and not curly hair, but curling hair, right? And French rolls and all of these things. We go all the way back to Victorian era. But that's not just one group of people that lived there. Let's talk about the whole thing and how all of these all technology and advancement when it comes to the beauty industry, how it affects every hair type. Because you aren't an artist if you don't think about every medium. You may have a medium that you love and that you specifically practice in, but when you're in school, you learn all the different type of mediums to work in, right? Yes. That should apply to you as a hairdresser in school.
I agree. And one of the things that we see in my space is that stylists will come to us and they've been through a cosmetology program, but you don't know how to braid. You don't know how to twist. You don't know how to do natural hairstyles. And that needs to be addressed. In my opinion, I feel like as a person of color, I should be able to walk into any salon and get services. And we're living in a world where it doesn't exist. And so we really have to put a voice to expressing what's needed for people of color and making sure we have a voice advocating around that. So I can go anywhere and get my hair done. And that just doesn't exist. And so I'm really passionate about that. So let's talk about the historical context. So Alethea, can you talk about, from your experience as an educator, the historical significance of hair in African culture?
Yeah, for sure. One of my favorite things about talking about, the historical importance for us is community. When it came to having your hair done, it was a community thing, right? And your whole, village, tribe, however you want to look at it, they all maybe went to one person, or we all had the same look so that we had a sense of belonging, right? And it may show your marital status. It may show if you're the firstborn. It may show a lot of things. And so having hair that can do all of these different things, elaborate styles to really show, one, your belonging, two, just your cultural background, two, that was important. And it was important to be able to see people that looked like you. You may be able to identify that's somebody from my village because I see how they're wearing their hair. And then when we think about just the evolution of that and how it went from being your identity and being proud of it to the shift of it almost being, not almost, but being a piece of shame, or you needing to hide it, to then it was a statement, to now we have this freedom. It's been a whole long journey, but the roots of it are community and belonging and identification, right? And of course, expression too.
Yeah, and even in modern day culture, we see that being carried out. Mm-hmm. It's how that has been something that has been handed down from generation to generation as part of the community. I love what you said about the community piece, because of the things that has happened to Black people, we always needed to have that community piece, and hair has been such essential. It's been one of the things that has bonded us together as people, right? And so how has the Eurocentric beauty standard historically marginalized that natural hair, the natural hair textures, the experience, and the community that we're talking about?
Yeah, I think thinking about the fact that people don't necessarily understand something that's outside of them. Let's start there. Just not understanding. So because I don't understand it and it's so far away from me, it's not acceptable. That's number one. Number two is because something is labeled unacceptable, it made a lot of people have to assimilate, right? So that's where we started to see, we love Madam C.J. Walker. I'm into it. But at the same time, let's think about the why behind that too. It wasn't just about maintaining your coils and curls. It was about how can I tame this, right? And so that I can blend in as much as possible. Or even the Xinjiang laws, that was about covering your hair. I don't even want to see your hair out for very different reasons, but that's what forced so many people to do that. And then we have questions like, how come Black girls' hair doesn't grow that long? Let's have that conversation. Yeah, the reality is, if I'm trying to force my hair out of what it naturally wants to do, and I'm willing to get there by any means necessary, that may mean using extreme heat. And I'm a stylist behind the chair, so I'm definitely not knocking it. But the reality is, when you do things that are so far away from where your hair naturally wants to live, you run the risk of having so much damage. You run that risk. And so now you don't have length retention because you're asking, that's like us trying to be someone we're not. Just in our physical space as a person mentally, it's hard and it's not sustainable. And the same thing happens with our hair. So trying to assimilate, blend in, fit in, and be so far outside of yourself, I think that's what's been a challenge for us. Now we see more people leaving from that space and being comfortable wearing their hair the way it is, but we still have a long way to go.
Yes,
because with curl typing and all of these things, yes, you may see someone with curly hair in an ad, but is their curl like your curl? And do you still feel seen if your curl isn't silky like that?
Oh, I love what you're saying, because we see certain representations and we want our hair to do that, but your hair may not do that.
Right.
And it's important to embrace where you are in that and not try to get what someone else has, because it's not who you are. I love that.
Right.
And you talked about assimilating. Can you break that down a little bit more? Because there might be someone out there who's wondering, what does that mean?
Yeah. It's really, to make it plain, it's fitting in, right? Fitting in, because the people that are around me may have straight hair or wavy hair, but how can I show up, quote unquote, air quotes, acceptable, right? Instead of me showing up with my hair in its natural form, maybe it's up to the gods instead of down, right? And so that has that piece, feeling like that's the one thing that's going to get me one step closer. I may not have the facial features, right, to align with that beauty standard, but what if my hair can at least be close enough and it won't be a distraction?
Yes. So I want to encourage all of you out there who are still looking to the creamy crack that you don't have to. Like, we can be free from that. We're in a time where we can truly embrace our natural hair.
Yeah.
And Danielle, so I'm going to ask your opinion about this, and for you to give your take on how has historical beauty standards influenced society's perceptions of treatment of people of color in general?
Sure. So we have historically laws against Black women's hair. You mentioned chignon laws, that they had to cover their hair because in reality white women say, wait, my man's attracted to that and I don't like it. They need to cover themselves so that they're not attractive to my man, so they can stay away from them. You had Code Noir that made Black people dress in a certain way because they felt like we were getting too high in our instep. Rather my hair is straight down my back or it's up coiffed like Queen Charlotte from Bridgerton, I should have that choice. But unfortunately, we still don't in 2024. You worry about how your hair will look to the interviewer at your job, or maybe when you go to college, how your professor will judge you based on your hairstyle. You worry when you go away to college, will the stores have your hair products? Mine did not when I went away to college. I either had to have my mom mail those products to me or drive 2 hours or more to get them. I have a closet full of hair products. Why? Because my hair decides one day, you know what, I don't like that product this week. We're gonna use something else. Go find something else for me to play with. Depending on what style I wanna use, depending on if I want to braid, if I want to twist, if I want to do faux locks, it should all be my choice. But unfortunately, historically, we've been told you're not enough, you're too much, do this, look like me, don't look like you. And then the myth that Black women can't grow their hair. My hair is midway down my back, but you'll never know because I never straighten my hair. For me, it's too much to straighten my hair, and then as soon as it rains, all undone.
Yeah, we have this afro, right?
Right, it's just, so, but I should still have that choice. And it shouldn't be shocking when I come to work with straight hair one week or twist the next week. It should be, oh, can I touch it? No. Do you just go around touching people you don't know? But unfortunately, historically, our bodies don't belong to us. They're there for the petting, the observing. They're there for other people's consumption, debate, and discussion. And unfortunately, we are not the ringleaders of said discussion.
That's good.
That's good.
And let's talk a little bit about how historically Black people have resisted this Eurocentric standard.
One of my favorite pictures is Angela Davis and that beautiful fro. Personally, a previous supervisor mentioned to me, she's like, I just love your hair when it's straight. I just love it so much. Can you wear it straight next week? Because we have this really important meeting. So I went home that weekend and I washed my hair and I twisted it and I came to said meeting in a very curly fro. The only thing I did was pin it back so it was not in my face. And she looked at me like, what I'm saying at this meeting, because it was a very important meeting with DCFS, has no bearing on my hairstyle that week. Did I intentionally do that? Yes. Was I being rebellious to her? Yes. But it should not, she should not have taken it that way. Because if she wouldn't have said it, my hair probably would have been straight when I went to the meeting. When we talk about Madam C.J. Walker, the reason why she developed her products, unfortunately, was to straighten hair, to make it tame, to use lye, which is caustic. Even though relaxers are safer now, we all know that burning itch. Mm-hmm. We remember it as kids sitting there, my head's on fire.
Oh, girl, I remember.
Mm-hmm. And then, no, it's just 5 more minutes. Right. No, my head is on fire. Why am I doing this? Making sure you didn't scratch a few days before you got your relaxer. Those are things that historically we have dealt with. But in the past 10 to 20 years, a lot of Black women have said, no, I'm not doing this anymore. You're going to get these curls the way they come out of this bonnet, whichever way they come out of this bonnet. We're going to make sure that we have products that are available in all stores, so I don't have to travel all over this earth to find that one product with the good shea butter in it.
I love that. And let's talk about the mental and emotional impact. All the things that you guys have just brought up, you know, your experience at work, and I have some of my own as well, where we've been pointed out or made to feel, as you said earlier, othered. Okay. What is the mental and emotional impact of that on people of color today?
We get up every morning to do whatever. For people of color, we have to think about what others are going to think of us. And that mental drain starts as soon as you get out of the bed, as soon as you set your feet on the floor. To think about, okay, I need to do my hair a certain way. I need to dress a certain way so that if I go to the local store, they don't think I'm stealing. And I need to make sure I'm at work early, not on time, so they don't think I'm lazy. I need to make sure my hair is a certain way so that my boss sees me as competent. Although they should see me as competent because I actually have a degree and I have the experience, but my hair is going to affect the way that they see me. And then maybe I decide to go to lunch and somebody tries to touch my hair because they think it's cute. But I didn't mean anything, and no offense, but I just want to see what it felt like. Or they bounce one of your curls because they just want to see. The mental drain as an adult is tiring. On children, it's worse because often they don't have the ability to say no to an adult, to say, please don't touch me, to say, I want my hair this way, to say, no, I'm not stealing, I just want candy at this store too. And so to have to continuously think about what others think about you, that mental drain is exhausting. And for kids, they already don't have the capacity to have that mental space, the bandwidth, to have everybody else's thoughts put before your own. And so then we have kids who are in care. So they have that additional trauma of not being with their family of origin, of probably being in the home of a stranger who has not given them the proper hair products or skincare products, and they're sleeping in somebody else's pajamas in somebody else's bed. And then they have to get up the next morning and their foster parent says, okay, you have 15 minutes to get ready. Wait, it takes me 15 minutes to do my hair. So you're not giving me time to dry my hair, to slick down my edges, to take my bonnet off. Oh wait, I don't even have a bonnet. My pillowcase is not silk. But then you're asking me, what's wrong with your hair? You only gave me 15 minutes.
Yeah, or they're going to school and now everybody knows that it doesn't look right. Mm-hmm. And then now I'm becoming the top of the conversation in the class as opposed to me being focused on my schoolwork. Yes. Or I'm being bullied because my hair is not in order by kids who really just need to be educated on the fact that my hair is different than yours. So it's not going to look like yours. It's not going to behave like yours. And it's just what it is. And so to have that emotional and that mental drain is hard, not only in an environment where you're in a house with people who look like you, but when you're in a home and an environment with people that don't look like you, the even greater pressure that is for a kid it's just, it has no words.
No.
So I was just so excited to hear about this new bill that just passed in Illinois, Danielle, HB 5097. And what it states is that every child who's in care now has to have a hair care plan. And you had the opportunity to hear us interview the two young women who were responsible for leading this initiative in Illinois. But I want to ask you, Danielle, like, I know you've been following this bill.
Yes.
And as a social worker working in the space, like, what does this mean to you? Like, when you heard about this bill and this moving forward, like, what impact did that have on you and even some of the other social workers who've been working with children in care?
Sure. So very excited about this bill. As a former adoption worker who had a foster parent tell me, well, the lady at church told me if I shaved my foster daughter's head, her hair will come back in straighter. Do you think I should do that? No, ma'am, you should not shave your foster daughter's head because it will not come in straighter. You will just have a bald foster child for a while who will have to go to school with a bald head. Who also said that washing hair every day was unclean. Not washing your hair every day was unclean. And I pointed out to her, my hair hadn't been washed in 10 days. You can't smell my hair. You don't smell anything. I smell lovely. This bill will require every youth in care to have a hair care plan to determine where they should get their hair done, how they should get their hair done, the products that they can use, the products they should be provided, because we can't use every product that's on the market. Every product is not meant for us. There are some products that are marketed towards Black people that I would not put in my hair because it's going to dry my hair out because my hair is high porosity and my curl type is different. I have 4 different curl types in my hair. So I have to think about what products I'm going to use or for these kids to be able to have some say-so in their hair. And some people may say, it's just hair. No, it's our hair. It's a part of our identity. So to be able to make a plan and have foster parents have to follow that plan, and that plan be just as serious as their care plan, as their permanency plan, and be reviewed during their administrative child reviews is monumental. Because we have so many of our kids who can't get the basic hair care products that they need, whether they're in a foster home, whether they're in a residential placement, whether they're in a hospital beyond medical need. They're getting these, little shampoo bottles that you get at the hotel, and I wouldn't dare use a hotel hair products in my hair. That's drying their hair out. That's causing them to have rashes. That's causing them to have extremely dry, brittle, where it breaks off, and nobody's doing anything about it. They're just like, well, it's just hair. It's okay.
Yeah, it's more than hair.
Right. This is going to empower our youth and advocate for them so that they're able to have one less thing that they need to deal with.
Absolutely, especially for children who already endured so much trauma. And then now I'm in a situation where it's creating more trauma because my hair isn't grown correctly. And so thank you for supporting the bill. As you guys know, Styles for Kids also support the bill, and we're excited to see the change that's going to be taking place in the lives of kids in Illinois. And if you're interested in pushing that bill forward in your state, please reach out to us. We want to make sure we get you connected with the folks that can help you do that. And Alethea, just talking about this Eurocentric beauty standard that has been created by the media, by America, even as Africans were brought into this country, and for 400 years we didn't have a comb, right? Right. But we come a long way, and now we have people who are beginning to embrace their natural hair. And I just want you to speak from the perspective of a professional who's worked with clients. What's that experience been like when clients get that realization, that my hair is beautiful and I need to embrace it as part of who I am?
Watching the transition of someone go from, like you said, feeling like they need creamy crack to standing in their natural glory, right, is a beautiful thing to witness. But also I see them change for other people. I see them create change for others that come behind them. So I've seen it happen in 2 different ways. I've seen people that feel like they have to wait until they have the authority and the position before they can wear their hair in its natural state. And when they do that, now they're a trailblazer for those that come behind them, because now they can make the decision. They're the decision maker to say, your hair, come how you are. Or they see them on a Zoom call with their fro out, or they see them in the office with their locks or whatever. So I've seen it in that way, and now they're leading. And I've also seen those that bust through the door with their natural hair, and they're like, this is who I am. Take it or leave it, like it or not, but I'm here, and my hair is not going to overshadow my brilliance. And
that's
so,
powerful.
you know what I mean? They come through, and I feel like, I know this sounds cliche, but I feel like when someone makes that decision, they truly wear their hair like a crown.
Oh,
you know what I mean? Because they walk in and they not demand, but command the attention, respect, admiration of whoever they're working with, because they truly accept themselves. Because that's another conversation too. Sometimes if you are not sure and you're wearing your hair in its natural form and you kind of wish it was different, but I'm going to wear it natural, but I'm not really sure, it's easy for someone to kind of knock you off your kilter. But if you say, I'm unapologetically natural, unapologetically coming in with my hair to the gods, this is who I am, it's different. And I love the transition watching it.
Yeah, I love it too when we get to see that experience in the salon with the kids in the community that we're serving, and just to be able to see that, I call it a little light. Once that light comes on, like you can't dim it. And that's the experience that we hope that your children are having out there as you continue to embrace their hair stories. And I love what you said, Danielle, about it's not just hair. I hope you guys are able to take those two things with us. So we have a story that came into Styles for Kids, and this is an actual question that came in from a transracial adoptive parent, and I just want to get your insight on this. So the situation was, we had a client who had received braids for her daughter with extensions for the very first time in the salon. And when they went home, she noticed that her daughter's perimeter area had a few bumps after the hair braiding service. And so she sent a question in. And I think it's important because of the conversation that we've been having to give you guys an opportunity to voice what you feel about this question. But the question that was presented was, my husband said it looks like an allergy and thought maybe fake hair made of rats and squirrels' hair in China. And based on the conversation we've having, even about this Eurocentric beauty standard, I would like to get both of your responses. Like, when you hear that, as a stylist, an educator, as a social worker who's working with children in a space with parents who may not necessarily look like the kids that they're caring for, how does that make you feel? And what's your response?
Wow, first of all. And unfortunately, we know there's one man thinking that. There are others who think that Black women and children are walking around with rat hair and squirrel hair braided into their hair. The ignorance is astounding. We both know, as we sit here with braids in our hair, we know when we first had them installed, those bumps, what they're the result of. Your hair is a little tight for a few hours, few days. It's not an allergic reaction, it's just tension. It's certainly not rat and squirrel hair. To not even take the opportunity, because the internet is a real thing, to Google to see what the hair could be made of, it just shows the ignorance and the entitlement of, oh, my opinion must just be right. This child must be walking around with animal hair in their hair. I mean, even the myth about, they're walking around with a horse ponytail. It's not horse hair, but it's not shocking, it's not surprising, it's just, wow, you really said that out loud.
Right.
You said the quiet part out loud.
And I'm gonna give you an opportunity to respond. I think the biggest concern for me also is that you are raising a child of color in your home. who may have also heard you say. And so we really have to, I just want to encourage adoptive parents out there. You really have to be careful about the conversation. We've talked about this before, that you're having around your children.
Mm-hmm.
Because even if you are thinking that, or you feel that, you really got to find it out before you speak it out of your mouth. Yeah. Alethea, when you hear that, like, what's your response?
For one, I was shocked that someone would say it out. But to your point, if one person said it, there's other people that are thinking it. But for me as a stylist and an educator, I think about so many different levels of education that are missing there. Because not only, of course, the education about the child's hair, the tension, where this is coming from, how long will it last, what can you do to prevent or to take care of it until it goes away. That's one element. Number two is the element of quote unquote fake hair, right? Let's talk about what it is, because talk about the fabric, not the fabric, but the material that is being used is absolutely not, what was it, rat and squirrel?
Yeah.
Absolutely not. For one, that's anyway. So there's that level of education. Yeah. And then also just that last dig even of where the hair came from. It's a multifaceted comment, honestly. And there's a huge opportunity too to teach them or educate them when it comes to that shame that you're going to make the child think. Because now they're hearing that's rat hair or that's squirrel hair. I don't want that fake hair in my head. Where when we go all the way back to our number one question, our first question, and historically elaborate hair that is, styled into this beautiful, what am I trying to say? Ethnic styles that are traditional for us, whether you're adding hair or not, to feel comfortable and confident in that. But if you correlate or relate it to animals, what's happening here? So it was a huge miss on that person's part. And to your point, before you say it out loud, and two, before you repeat what was said out loud, do the work, do the research, and ask the questions. Like, I'm not sure where this is coming from, but I feel like the connection to the animal piece was this back thought of the fact that they didn't appreciate the braids in the first place. You know what I mean?
That's the bigger piece. You hit the nail on the head right there with that, and that is the reason why we have to educate. And the other thing I'll say, especially for you parents out there, is you have to be open.
Yep.
You gotta be open. And I always say there's no such thing as a dumb question, because if you don't know, you don't know, and you should ask these questions. But be sensitive to those things culturally that you may not be familiar with, and you want to have some sense of secrecy, especially about some of the things that you're thinking, especially if you don't know if they're valid, and speaking those things out loud in front of your children. We see the impact that can have long term. I know in the 13 years that I've been working in the space, I see some of the impact that some of these things have on your children. So it's very, very important for you to develop that sense of empathy. And even more importantly, have women like these in your circle. You gotta have some folks that you can have some real conversations with and ask these questions to in a way that will not be offensive. So thank you so much for being on this edition of Hairitage Talks. I hope that what we've discussed has been helpful for you parents out there. And we look forward to having you stay in touch with these ladies. So I'm gonna have them share their contact information. So please reach out to them if you have questions about this podcast, or if you need to seek out their expertise. I know Alethea's in California, so she's out there for those parents out there in that area, and Danielle's right here in Chicago. So if you guys want to share how people can contact you, we'd like for you to do that now.
Yeah, you can find me on Instagram, Alethea Young, ALIF like Friday, IAYOUNG on Instagram.
Okay. And I am Miss Danny, MSDANI 313 on Instagram.
Yep. And so I'm excited for you parents out there who are on your learning journey. We know that you're still learning, and it's okay. And it's okay to ask questions, and we want you to do that. And so, but this was designed to just help you guys learn a little bit more about how to do that in a way that is not offensive, and it is loving and it's open and can be embraced. So I'm excited about the next edition of Hairitage Talks. So in November is Adoption Awareness Month, and we're going to be coming back with some stories of transracial adoptees that you definitely don't want to miss. So make sure that you're tuned in for the next edition of Hairitage Talks.